What I want to show you guys today is a very sneaky chess tactic that you can spot in your games and play it against your opponents, or at least not have it played against you. And the core of the tactic revolves around this bishop pinning the pawn on f7, and also the h-pawn moving up one square, thereby essentially creating a hole in black's kingside position on g6, which we're going to take advantage of with this move queen to g6. And I'm going to show you a live example so you guys can see it in action, but the key things we want to look out for here are the bishop pinning the pawn and that pawn on the h-file having moved up one square. So let's take a look at it, the exact same position with a lot more pieces on the board. Now it looks more like a standard chess game, standard position, and we can much more easily spot that queen to g6 idea now that we've talked about it. And you can kind of see why it's sneaky, because in a position like this, your eyes don't necessarily move to putting your queen in front of three pawns like that on the king side. So in this position, white could, in theory, play queen to g6. What black would do, and this is black's best defensive chance typically, is to block that pin with something like knight to d5. And now this actually creates a threat on the queen, and white would have to decide how to continue. Do you take with the bishop on d5, or do you drop your queen back? So here white hasn't achieved too much. So I'm going to show you one supercharged way of combining a couple of tactics involving this pawn on h6, and that is by playing bishop to h6 first. And this is why it's so important to always think twice before moving pawns in front of your king, because it creates holes in your position and just weakens your king's safety. So in this position, we're going to play bishop to h6. We're going to sacrifice our bishop, and now we can play queen to g6 with check, and black's king has to slide across. I'm going to show you a couple of variations here because they're both quite interesting and they're very instructive. Here, we could simply take the pawn. We could say, cool, I'm going to take the pawn here, threatening queen to h6 on my next move. Another way of looking at it is you can play queen to h6, after which the knight would drop back. And here we wouldn't play knight to g5, which we'd like to, because the bishop is covering that square. We're going to drop our bishop back to c2, threatening a deadly checkmate on h7, after which black is going to have to defend it with f5. And now, even though we're down a piece, we've actually got a very strong attack, but there's still plenty of play left in the game. It's actually only a +1 advantage for white in this position, according to the computer. So after bishop takes h6, g takes h6, the correct move is actually in this particular position, rook takes f7, because that bishop was protecting that g5 square from the knight, right? So we're going to get rid of that bishop first, and then we're going to go rook to e1, forcing the queen to move as well, and the queen is going to move here to b4, and only now we can go queen to g6 check, the king slides across, queen takes h6 check, the knight drops back, and now we can come in threatening a deadly checkmate on h7. Black is going to have to play knight to f6 to defend that knight. And we're simply going to take the knight, and come back to that other motive that we were looking at. Bishop c2, threatening another checkmate. So black is going to play f5. And now we want to bring in our final piece, apart from the knight, of course, the rook, to threaten that checkmate on h7. So we can see the queen is defending that e7 square, so we're going to play a3, and this actually forces the queen off that diagonal because there are no safe squares. So the queen's going to slide across to c7, and now we're going to jump in rook e7, threatening checkmate on h7. The queen drops back to defend, and then final nail in the coffin, bishop to b3, attacking the queen. And here black can resign, white is on the verge of victory, and it all started back from here when we noticed that that pawn on f7 is pinned, and we can find some tactics around it involving the queen jumping to g6, which a lot of opponents won't spot because it just looks so strange to be putting a queen right in front of 3 pawns. Anyway, I hope you guys learned something from this video. I make a lot of videos like this one with chess educational content, so if you like this one, go check out the other ones and consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.